On this episode, we look at valet bicycle parking at the National Cherry Blossom Festival. Then we learn about the Blair Walk Project. We drop in on the Florida Probike-Prowalk conference in Saint Augustine. We meet a cyclist going from Key West to Canada. We examine what pedestrians want with a psychologist in Vienna, Austria. Finally, we talk with a pedestrian in Vienna. Stay tuned. We're in Washington, D.C., talking with Maggie Thompson, who's program manager for WABA. What does WABA stand for?
WABA stands for the Washington Area Bicyclist Association.
Which is?
We're your friendly, local, nonprofit bicycle education and advocacy group.
What's going on here in Washington this week?
Well, this week and for the week past and the week in the future, we're having the National Cherry Blossom Festival, which is a huge tourist attraction. People from all over the world come to visit, and these sidewalks and streets are packed with cars and bicycles and pedestrians.
And what's the connection between WABA and the Cherry Blossom Festival?
WABA is down here at the Cherry Blossom Festival doing valet bike parking. It's free bike check for people who ride down to the mall, want a safe, secure place to leave their bike while they walk around and enjoy the cherry blossoms.
Sounds like an interesting idea. How'd this all get started?
It all got started when some people long ago went to San Francisco and noticed that this is something that they do frequently at large public events. And we thought, what a cool idea, we should bring this to DC. And over the past few years, we've managed to work with the Downtown DC Business Improvement District. They're working on some transportation mitigation issues, and they decided it would be a good idea to have WABA come out here and do valet bike parking to encourage more people to ride down to the mall.
How difficult is it to do something like this?
It's not particularly difficult. Once you get the permits to be on the space on the National Mall, really all you need to do is rent a bunch of crowd control fencing and get some volunteers to come out and help you man the station. And it's essentially you come in, you sign in, you take a claim ticket, we park your bike, and if you come back before 7 o'clock, we give your bike back to you. We haven't had anyone try to leave their bike after 7 o'clock, so hopefully that won't happen.
How's it been going? Do you think you might want to do it again in the future?
It's been going really well. Our first weekend it was a little chilly. This weekend the weather's been great. It's been beautiful. We've had tons of cyclists come out and take advantage of the bike parking. And we hope that now that we've set this precedent, other large mall events like the Screen on the Green, which is movies that are shown on the mall, things like that, will contact WABA and have us come do valet bike parking for their events.
We're in Silver Spring, Maryland, talking with Pam Miller, who's chair of the Montgomery County Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee. What is the committee?
The committee was formed as one of the recommendations from the Montgomery County Blue Ribbon Panel on pedestrian traffic safety, and our county executive, Doug Duncan, put the advisory board together to oversee the implementation of the other 53 recommendations that were made.
What's been going on here this morning?
This morning we rolled out a brand new program that we're really excited about. We've been trying to figure out a way to increase awareness in the public, and even though there's been some dollars for a regional-wide media campaign, there's not enough dollars there to really do the job that we need it to do. So what we've done is we've tried to tap resources that come to us without a cost, and that's our students. We've hired a consultant to train our high school students to go out as part of their student service learning credit to go out and train elementary school kids how to cross the street safely and bring them up to speed on pedestrian safety. And what this does is, one, it gives the kids ownership of a program that makes them more aware of traffic safety, and considering these high school students are just beginning to drive or anticipating getting their license, it's a valuable lesson for them to be taking out on the streets for themselves. For the little ones, it's a message that they can take home. And in this county where we have so many multilingual students and families, we have a lot of these children being educated about pedestrian safety who could go in turn and educate their parents who may not speak English about pedestrian safety in the county. And we're particularly concerned about these non-English speaking communities because they're so sorely misrepresented in the so poorly represented in the traffic fatalities and injuries we have in the county.
And I imagine high school kids may be a little difficult to reach sometimes with the safety message. Has this proven to be an effective way to do it?
Well, we've just rolled out the program. We had a pre-pilot program last year in April. And the students seem to really embrace the idea, and they don't have to do this. The children, the high school students that are participating in this want to do it, and I think that makes the difference. And the bottom line is high school students are really beginning to define themselves as adults, even though they don't realize perhaps the dangers that are out there and they're really not palpable to them. They do want to take on more responsibility so they can start breaking away from the home and start defining themselves as adults. So I think this is going to be a successful program. The kids seem to be enjoying teaching the little ones too. I think there's always a little attraction there between youngsters and big kids.
So you find that the small children tend to listen to the older children?
Absolutely. They all want big friends. And I can remember from when my daughter was a child that there was something about a high school student chumming up with them that was very, very special. And it's not a teacher, so the kids take it on a much different level. I think we'll see. A lot of this needs to be played out now. But so far the reports coming in have all been very positive that the high school students are enjoying teaching the kids. They're also getting a little bit of an eye-opening experience how difficult it is to keep 20 elementary school kids' attentions for any long amount of time. But on the other hand, this is a quick little training course that really drives home the point that everyone needs to be careful, and the children seem to be enjoying the training, which helps the learning process.
Now, what lessons have you learned so far that you might be able to use if you decide to expand this, countywide or broader?
Well, what we're hoping to do is roll this out starting next September to other high schools, and we also have a second part of this program that we didn't really go into today, but because we have so many bilingual students, to send them out into the communities to educate adults in community centers, Latino community centers, Asian, whatever we need, to bring them up to speed in a very culturally specific and meaningful way. So what we've learned basically is that we have to keep the groups smaller, and you may have seen today where they were dividing the children into groups of 5 to be trained. And so we're still working out the bumps, but so far there don't seem to be too many bumps.
We're in Saint Augustine, Florida, talking with Lindy Moore, who's program director with the Florida Bicycle Association, or the FBA. What is that?
Florida Bicycle Association. We're the statewide education and advocacy organization, and we do all kinds of programs through the state of Florida to educate motorists, cyclists, pedestrians, teachers, law enforcement, everyone that we can get into a class or on a bike. We educate them and work with them to make Florida a better bicycling state.
And what have you been doing here in St. Augustine this week?
This week has been the second annual Probike-Prowalk Florida Conference. It's a conference with bike ped coordinators, landscape architects, educators, law enforcement, designers, anybody that has an interest in a city or county or state level to make Florida a better place for bicyclists and pedestrians.
And what goes on at this conference?
We have 4 sessions per hour where people can learn from their peers, learn about different programs that are available, resources, who they can network with. If another community has done something, instead of inventing it over themselves, then they just copy that community. They partner and work together, and that way everybody can coordinate and make Florida a great place to ride and walk.
And since this is the second one, I assume the first one must have gone reasonably well if you're doing it another time. What sort of feedback have you gotten from the people who've gone to the conference last year and so far this year?
Well, last year we did a survey afterwards and asked them, would you like this conference annually? Where would you like it and when would you like it? They told us they wanted it every year. They wanted it in Saint Augustine and they wanted it in April. So that's why we're here in April. And this year there's been discussion about having the conference every 18 months or every 2 years. And as people are leaving, they're saying, no, please have it every year. We want to have it every year. We need to keep up the momentum. And this is how we coordinate everything. And we've got to have it on an annual basis.
The government is the people that own and operate the infrastructure. What's the role of independent association like the FBA and I guess helping the government do their job better?
Well, the Florida Department of Transportation formerly had a bike ped coordinators meeting that was every other year, and they decided they needed to have a larger group and more involvement, but they just didn't have the people that were equipped to do that. So they worked with Florida Bicycle Association for us to be the ones to put on the program. So we coordinate all the paperwork, do all the printing, contact all of the speakers, and plan the program, locate the site, and we just do all of the preparation work. And they give us recommendations on who would be appropriate for certain topics and how to reach certain people. So they help us reach all of the great speakers that we have and the keynotes like you. Put us in touch with people like you that can come down here and share your knowledge and skills with the Florida group.
And I assume a lot of this is for the benefit of Florida residents, but Florida also gets a lot of tourists. Tourist to Florida wants to bike. What are they going to find?
Well, it depends on what kind of riding they want to do and where they're going to be. You can ride on the road if you like to do that, but we've got trails all over the state. We work in a lot of connectivity, and we have a brochure about some of the most popular trails in the state. It's actually in the second printing. It was premiered at our conference last year. We now have a hiking brochure that's a companion piece to it, and bicycling is the #1 request when people hit Florida. When they come to our visitor centers, they say, where can I ride my bike? So it's great to have information to let them know where the trails are and the connectivity and resources for them when they get here.
We're in Savannah, Georgia, talking with Stuart Palmer from the United Kingdom. What are you doing here in Savannah?
Well, we're having a look at the historic buildings, but it's part of a extended journey up the east coast of America.
And how are you traveling up the East Coast?
Well, by bicycle, cycling all the way, something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And I love the cycling, the weather's wonderful, so it's by bike.
Where did you start out?
We started in Key West, and we're going to follow the east coast, and we're going to go all the way up to Nova Scotia, and our flight home is from Halifax on the 23rd of June, so we've got another couple of months on the east coast.
What's it been like so far?
It's been very pleasant. I've cycled in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, India, and I have to say the pace of traffic in the United States is actually a little bit slower than most of the other places that I've cycled. So generally speaking, very pleasant.
What have the facilities been like? Has it been easy to get around by a bike?
Not too bad. I get a sense over here that they're trying to provide facilities for bikes, but you perhaps will encounter a bike lane and then it will suddenly run out, or the bike lane will have a vehicle parked on it, or suddenly roadworks will appear, and then moments later you're back in with the rest of the highway traffic, and you can quite literally take your life in your hands. So I get a strong sense that the Americans, certainly in Florida and Georgia so far, are bike aware, but they've a little way to go yet, but it's coming on. It's not too bad.
Have you come across many other people biking long distance the way you are?
Just two. There was a couple of young men who I didn't have an opportunity to speak to, who I know were from Germany. They were heading south, and there was one other who was from Canada, and he was heading south as well. But so far, that's about it. You've seen lots of people on bikes, but not touring bikes, certainly not long distance.
How does that compare with some of the other places where you've done long distance touring?
It compares in the sense that certainly in Europe and in New Zealand, you see people on bicycles who are touring all the time. You can almost encounter them every other day. But to see somebody touring on a bicycle in this country is a complete surprise, or at least so far anyway.
How difficult was it to find information about bicycle routes when you were planning your trip?
Quite difficult. We did look on the internet. We're aware of one or two places, but the difficulty seems to be that it's a great big country, and the bicycle routes are few and far between. So, for example, I know in Miami that there were a number of bicycle routes, but trying to link the bicycle route in with the way that you want to go and actually trying to find the beginning of it and the end of it sometimes is quite difficult. Certainly for the sort of journey that we're doing of say 2,500 miles, just to find bike routes which may only be 2 or 3 miles long, I'd end up with a book 2 inches thick, of little bits of bike routes. So we just have to use what we can when we find them.
When you get back home and your friends ask you about your experience, what would you tell them?
Well, I think I'd tell them that all the way we've had the goodwill of people in America. Everybody who has stopped and spoken to us has wished us well on our journey. Interestingly, they've always said to us, be really careful and good luck, this sort of thing. Obviously, we are as careful as we possibly can be. We try and stay away from the traffic as best we can, but sometimes it really is very, very difficult. And it is nice to know that the vast majority of Americans driving in cars are giving you as much space as possible and are as patient as possible. Sadly, you always get a few odd ones who are impatient and saying their horn, or, I've had one person shouting obscenities, but possibly he was drunk. So, but certainly I would say that it's a place that I would love to come back to just in the time that I've been here. But it would be nice to come back and find the facilities improved a little bit.
We're in Vienna, Austria, talking with Ralph Risser. What sort of research have you done in the traffic area?
Very much about so-called vulnerable road users and their safety and preconditions for those groups of vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists.
And typically, what sort of problems do they confront?
They find a combination of safety problems and quality problems. That means an infrastructure that is primarily not made for pedestrians and cyclists. It's made for car drivers, bringing about a lot of usability and comfort problems for the other groups.
And if one is trying to promote walking or bicycling, what are the biggest hurdles that you face?
I think, speaking for Austria, maybe for other European countries, one of the biggest hurdles is that authorities are reluctant to reduce all the positive preconditions for car drivers, to reduce speeds, for example, to give the cars less space, and so on. And that is what you need if you want to improve preconditions for the others.
And you worked on a study for the European Union several years ago. What was the project you worked on for them?
Yeah, that was called waltzing, walking and cycling instead of short car trips. And it was about ways to bring people to change mode on short car trips. And we found that half of all car trips in Europe are shorter than 5 kilometers, which is a distance that you can do in 10 minutes by a bicycle, and about 15% of all car trips are shorter than 1 kilometer. That means a 10 minutes walk. So there is a very big potential for a change.
And more recently, you worked on a project for the city of Vienna. What did you work on for them?
Yes, that was about, again, preconditions for walking and how you could improve preconditions for walking. And the main cluster of ideas was that you should not look at safety isolatedly. You have to see more to quality for walking and to improve the quality of walking, including safety. And that would mean that you look at comfort aspects, that you look at usability aspects, that you see to it that pedestrians have short ways, have reasonable waiting times at traffic lights, that you reduce car speeds, because fast-going cars are always barriers for pedestrians. You cannot cross roads when cars go fast. So you have to see to it that life quality aspects are considered more than just safety aspects. And we are not at all interested in primarily in objective safety, quotation mark, or in accidents. What is interesting us is before the accident. How would you change preconditions so that no accidents happen and at the same time pedestrians feel safe? So they should be safe and feel safe. And there was also one discussion that we had for very much time, that was that if pedestrians don't feel safe, then you will not succeed in bringing car drivers to walk. Or, for example, you will not succeed in having school children walk to school, because parents will be afraid that they are knocked over by cars. So you have to change both the objective safety of traffic and how people perceive traffic. And at the moment, they perceive traffic in such a way that pedestrians are second-class road users.
So there's a role for psychology and some of those sciences, as well as just engineering in creating a more walkable place?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a psychologist, and it's natural that I will bring my discipline to first position. But I really do think that you need sociology and psychology first to define the needs of the users, and technology comes thereafter. When you know the needs and the interests of the different user groups, then you can adapt technology to those. The other way around, as it goes now, is based on what they know about the needs of the cars. Everything is going that direction. ITS, or intelligent transport systems, as you call them, and all those things, they are more in the direction to enhance car traffic. But our interest, as said, is not to enhance car traffic, but to reduce car traffic in the cities, because we are running into severe problems. What sort of reception have these reports for the EU and then for the city here? What sort of reception have they gotten? Have people picked up on the ideas you talked about in them? Theoretically, or on a general level, they have a very good reception, because a lot of programs since a lot of years always have said that we want to enhance alternative modes. So programmatically speaking, there is no problem. In practice, the reception is quite ignorant, I would say, because a lot of things that we know what you should do in order to enhance walking are not implemented. And the reason is, as I think, a conflict of interests. Authorities defend very much the interests of the groups of car drivers and those who represent car drivers. There will be parts of the industry, of course, they are interested in selling cars, fast cars, strong cars, expensive cars, and all those clubs that have developed in Europe, the motorist clubs. I believe that the Austrian Motorist Club, if you calculate per capita of the Austrian population, is the largest association in the world. So that is a really strong lobby.
We're in Vienna, Austria, talking with Thomas Teuer. What's it like to get around Vienna without a car?
Well, it's quite easy. We have a very good public transport system, and well, you just use it. There's a daily ticket. You get on at point A and leave it at point B, and you can use bus, tram, metro with just one ticket. And I guess the city is spending a lot of money to improve the public transport system, and yeah, I'm quite proud. They could be quite proud of it.
Okay. Once you get off the tram or the subway or the bus, what's it like as a pedestrian in the city?
You walk around, and if you are lucky, you meet a pedestrianized zone, and then it's really nice to walk around, see the beautiful buildings in the city, and go for a shopping trip or whatever. But outside these pedestrianized areas, it's like just a simple sidewalk, very narrow, a lot of hassle with parking cars and constructions going on the pavement, on the road. So it's not really nice at all.
How about for bicyclists? What facilities are available for bicyclists in the city?
I think the city is doing quite a lot, and they continuously increasing their mileage on their cycle lanes, and doing a lot on crossing improvements which support cyclists and pedestrians. And when they're now building a new road, they're setting a new cycle lane, a separate cycle lane, which is quite new to the city, because in former days they used to paint a little line on the street which signalized, see, there's a cycle lane. But nowadays we have a proper cycle lane separated from the road.
And if someone is only going to need a car once in a while, every couple of weeks, what are the alternatives that I don't want to have to buy a car if I'm not going to need it very often?
Okay. You can, for example, join a car club, a local car club. I guess it's quite popular because it's really hard to get a car for the weekend, for example. And on the other hand, it's really easy to get a car anywhere else in the country, wherever you need it. For example, you go by train from Vienna to Graz or Salzburg, and book a car in advance, take it over there, go on for 2-3 hours and give it back after that, and just pay for the 3 hours you've driven around.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.